Welcome to punctuation video number 1. This will be your first of 3 punctuation videos. This one is about the punctuation method. Our things to know for this video are listed right here. Number 1, which punctuation belongs to each of the 3 groups? Number 2, what combination of ideas can each of the groups separate in a sentence? Number 3, be able to memorize both number 1 and 2 above, memorize those things, and then be able to write them out in table form. Number 4, what is fanboys? This is an acronym. You may already know what it is, but we'll review it real quick. And 5, when to and not to use the punctuation method. Okay, punctuation questions in general. On your ACT, it's you have a section called the English section. On your SAT, it's called the Writing and Language section. These are almost always the most tested question type on those sections, punctuation. So it's very important that we go ahead and start out learning about our punctuation and all the rules involved there, okay? There's a variety of punctuation rules tested, and we'll cover those in 3 videos. You have the 3 groups of punctuation, which we'll talk about right now. There will be a second video forthcoming about comma placement. There are 4 comma rules that we'll learn there. And then probably a shorter video about apostrophes and what are a couple of the things they can test with apostrophes. So that'll be coming down the road. Here is the table that I want you to memorize and be able to replicate in class, okay? So it's very important that you have this knowledge before we begin working on these questions in class. So what we're going to learn, if you look at group 1 over there, you'll see that group 1 includes a period, semicolon, comma plus fanboys, a question mark, and an exclamation mark. And then down below that, you'll see a C and a colon and a C, right? And right there, what that C stands for, it stands for complete, as in complete idea. And what we're going to learn is that group 1 punctuation can only come in between 2 complete ideas, right? And so for group 2, you have a comma or nothing at all, and then there are 3 combinations of ideas that either of those can come in between: the complete, incomplete, incomplete, complete, incomplete, incomplete. Group 3 is your colon and dash, and then down below you'll see complete, complete, and complete, incomplete. So I need you to memorize that stuff for next time. Now, you may be asking yourself, why would I need to know about that? Why would I need to know this information? Well, let me ask you, how many of you out there, truthfully and honestly, know the rule about a semicolon? When are we supposed to use a semicolon? Because I remember in 1994 taking my ACT, and I'm not trying to brag, but I did very, very well in this on this part of the test. And I can't remember many things from the year 1994, but I do remember the question with the semicolon, and I remember it because it bothered me, because I didn't remember what my English teacher taught me about it, and I didn't know if I was going to get that question right or wrong. And because it was an ACT and I knew I wasn't going to be able to check, it bothered me. I wanted to know whether I got that right or wrong, right? So what I wish I had known at the time was that semicolon is a group 1 punctuation, and it only is going to come in between 2 complete ideas. So if you look at this question over here to the right, you can see that we have punctuation is changing, right? Right in between the words child and I every single time. And in answer choice C, specifically, you see that punctuation there with the semicolon. And if you're able to draw on your knowledge that that is a group 1 and that it can only come in between 2 complete ideas, then you'll be able to do the following. You're going to read everything ahead of the semicolon, right? And you're going to read, when I was a child. Well, now, is that a complete idea or an incomplete idea? That is incomplete, right? And then you'll read everything after the semicolon in that sentence. I love to visit my uncle's bakery and spend hours with him in the kitchen. Now, that's a little bit different. That is a complete idea. That part of the sentence there could be a sentence all by itself. And so once you find out your combination of ideas, and in this case, it's an incomplete complete, Now you know your semicolon is no good because the semicolon can only come in between two complete ideas. So that, that would have been a really welcome shortcut for me back when I took my test. I would have known, right? And that is really how we handle these questions on your ACT or your SAT with punctuation. Now, with another quick note about Group 1 punctuation, your question mark and exclamation marks, these are very, very rare. So, obviously they could show up, and we want to be ready for them, but I wouldn't expect them. It's really almost always you're seeing a lot of the period, semicolon, and then our comma plus fanboys. And then you may be thinking, what is a comma plus fanboys? What is that, right? So fanboys is an acronym, and off to the left here, you can see it stands for and, nor, but, or, yet, so. So in this question to the right, it says, although I am apprehensive about the test, I am going for it. And, well, we see that here our punctuation is changing between the words test and I. And in A, it's a period. In B, it's a semicolon. In C, we have a comma. And in D, we have a comma again. However, C and D are very different, right? Do you see the fanboy in answer choice D? And so they're very different. C, we're going to learn that's a comma, and that's a comma by itself. It's just a straight up comma, and that is a group 2 punctuation. So our combination of ideas are going to be different. But for D, that is a comma followed by a fanboy. So that's our comma plus fanboys. So that's what we mean by comma plus fanboys. Now, in D, for that to be correct, you're going to need complete ideas before the comma and but, and then after the comma and but, okay? Now, group 2 punctuations, here to the left, you have complete, incomplete, incomplete, complete, and incomplete, incomplete. Those are our ideas, right? So, and you have a comma or nothing at all. When you're memorizing those 3 combinations of ideas, just a quick note to help this make this easier for yourself. Well, don't try to memorize really. Think of it like this. If you just remember, there's got to be an incomplete idea somewhere, either in front or behind the punctuation, or both in front and behind the punctuation. So there just has to be an incomplete somewhere. If you see a comma or nothing at all and you're wondering if that's okay, if you can find an incomplete idea anywhere, that is going to be okay. Also, you may be thinking, what kind of punctuation is a nothing? Well, here's what we mean by that. Here is this question that we've seen previously. And if you look at answer choices B, C, and D, you'll see the punctuation is changing each time in there, right? In B, we have the dash, C, a semicolon, and D, the comma. But what about A? When you look at A, the way it's written in the sentence, what shows up? Well, nothing, right? So that's what we mean by nothing. So in some of these questions, you'll see all 4 answer choices have a particular punctuation. But in some of these, they will leave the punctuation out. Well, it's important to remember that nothing counts as a group 2 punctuation, which means you need to have an incomplete idea either in front or after, of course, or of course in both, right? Our group 3 punctuations, the colon and the dash, they have these combination of ideas, complete, complete, and complete, incomplete. This is one that I, in particular, when I would take my test, and I had already learned this, I would have a tough time remembering. But one day it dawned on me that as I looked at the first idea, what happens? What do you see both times there? Well, it's got to be a complete idea, right? And then afterwards, what's going on? It really, at least for group 3, it doesn't matter what shows up. So if you see the colon or a dash in an answer and you're wondering, is that going to be okay? Really just check the first idea. If it's complete, then either of those are going to be okay. But if it's an incomplete, neither is okay. That answer choice would be wrong. Now, don't get the idea that you don't need to check that second set of combinations there, right? Because although it doesn't matter for group 3, that second combination of ideas, it is going to matter for your group 1 and group 2. So don't think you're not going to need to check those. You will need to do that, okay? And then lastly, you need to know when to go ahead and use this method. And I'm going to show you that right here. So we have this question once again, And in this question, we can see that if you look at answer choice A, what kind of punctuation do we have? We've already covered it, right? That's a nothing. Well, which is what group? Group 2. And I look in B, I've got a dash, which comes from group 3. Now that's important right there. Now I know I'm going to go ahead and use this punctuation method where I begin to look at the combination of ideas before and after the punctuations. Why? Well, because the punctuation method basic is initiated as soon as you hit that second group. When you see that 2 different groups show up inside of your answer choices, that's when you want to begin to check your combination of ideas, okay? So going on with answer choice C, I see I've got semicolon from group 1, and in D I've got that comma from group 2. So I have really all of the groups represented here. So I will want to go ahead and check my combination of ideas, and then I'll be able to get rid of some of the answers here where the combination of ideas do not match up with the punctuation. When not to use the punctuation method. So in a question like this right here, you can see, yeah, it's about punctuation, right? But it's about commas. And really, that's when it's always going to be where you're not using the punctuation, when it's all about commas. Now, you do want to check the commas to see if at any point there is a fanboy after the comma, right? Because then if it's comma group 2, and then comma fanboy from group 1, then you can do your punctuation method. But here, where's the punctuation changing? It's all over the place. But if you look between the words properly and you, for instance, maybe you see and think that it's changing there. So if I go ahead and I look through all of my answers here, then I'll see in answer choice A, I've got between properly and you again, I've got nothing there, right? So that's group 2. And in B, there's nothing, that's group 2. C, we have the comma there now, but this comes from group 2, and same thing with D, group 2. So that will tell you right there, well, I don't need to use the punctuation method, because the punctuation method is all about telling us which groups are right and which groups are wrong. And if you only have group 2 punctuation all the way through, then of course group 2 is going to be right. One of those answer choices there is going to be right, okay? So again, it's important to know when to use the punctuation method and when not to use it, so that when you see these questions on the test, you can go ahead and react properly, okay? This question right here instead is probably testing a comma rule, which we will see in our next video. Thank you for watching.